Hey guys, welcome back. So today, actually, my mother came into town, and well, we decided to do a podcast about her and her experience with me joining the Navy and moving out in the world. I know it's been, like I said, it's been 10 years, but figured we'd give it a try and see what she remembers and how she dealt with it, and see what kind of information that she can put out that might help a spouse or a mom or anybody in the family if someone else is joining. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into it. So with that, I guess we can go back to the beginning when I joined. When I joined, I was actually 17, and I had to ask you permission, right? So we had to
Yes.
go down to the recruiting station, and you had to sign a form. What was your thoughts whenever I was joining?
Well, hey guys, I'm Mom. If you remember, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done because we had 9/11 and it was going on like that. But I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's what made you happy. I was like, okay. I mean, it was hard. It was very hard.
Yeah, I remember because it was always funny because I thought that the easiest person to get to sign the paperwork would be my dad, and I thought that you would be like, oh no, but it turned out to be the other way around. You were like, well, I mean, all right, I guess, and then Dad was like, well, you're going to be going over into war, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be that. I'm like, Dad, I'm joining the Navy. I'm going to be on a ship. Like, it's not going to be a big deal. Which, funny enough, I actually never. This is my first time on a ship, and my very first command was Bahrain, so over in the Middle East, which was not expected at all.
Yeah, it was definitely hard for your dad. He had a hard time with it. I mean, I had a hard time with it too, but it's what you wanted to do. So,
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on dealing with the situation? Because I mean, since I joined so early, I was still technically under your household. I wasn't 18. What were some of the thoughts running through your head, and how did you kind of cope with it?
well, the worst part was dreading the day coming up when you were leaving for boot camp. But I was so proud. It was very mixed emotions, bittersweet when you left, because I was very proud. But skipping ahead, when you were in boot camp, what helped me the most was on Facebook. I found out, of course, we wrote letters. I tried to write letters to you every day. We found out what group you were in, what section you were in. Is that right? And then I joined a group on there, and other moms are on there. And I actually made a really good friend with a lady, and we all as parents. Sometimes there were spouses on there too, or girlfriends, and we shared information and talked our feelings, and it helped me a lot. It really helped me.
What was that group called?
I'll have to look it up. I don't remember.
So if I remember correctly, was it like Navy Moms?
That's exactly what it was. Yep, Navy Moms.
So I know back then Facebook wasn't what it is now.
Right.
So I'm sure now there's probably some groups to help with that. There's probably a Navy Moms group on Facebook, or
There is. I still get messages showing where ladies have posted. I guess you have your same squadron or whatever it's called is still there, and they have a new group. And sometimes I'll have messages from moms on there.
oh, I know what you're talking about. So you're talking about the class number. What the class numbers just rotate through. It's basically it goes by the year. So if I was class 219, whatever, that would have been that class for that year, and then that number's just going to keep going up. I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
So yeah, be sure if you guys you're looking for something, get on Facebook and type in something like that.
It's very, very helpful, and you can just say your feelings, or you don't have to, but you can really become close friends with all the moms and actually meet them. I saw a couple of them at his graduation, so it was nice.
Is there what? So did you just use Navy Moms, or was there something else that helped you?
I searched around looking for other things, and I had a couple people ask me to be in, like where we live. There was a group there. I didn't join it though. But mainly that really helped me. That helped me through, and writing the letters to you too. I mean, it was so helpful. Let me tell you this: you don't really tell them. You just tell them what's going on. Like we just told you what was going on, and tried to answer your letters that you would send us, and we wouldn't say bad things or talk about bad things, and just try to let you know what's going on in the world because you have no outside communication.
Yeah, I remember when I was going through. I remember specifically asking you. I was like, "Hey, can you like send me some newspaper clippings or something?" Because
Yep.
I just had no idea what was going on in the world, and I just wanted to feel somewhat connected. For those of you that don't know, I come from a really small town, and back home everybody kind of knows everybody, so you kind of know everything's going on, and once you get to boot camp, like you're just completely cut off. You get, how many times did I call you when I was at boot camp?
4 times, maybe.
4 times. So I think now it might be a little bit different, but 4 times. That's how many times I got to talk.
I think boot camp is longer now, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'd have to double check
I
on
think
that.
it is. Yeah, one letter he asked me, did Michael Jackson really die? It was when Michael Jackson died, so.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind when you are sending letters or anything like that to people in boot camp. Like we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I will say Mom is right that try to stay on the positive side of things, because if you start leaning towards the negative, then you start to lose focus and have a bad time. I know I had a really hard time in boot camp just because of some things that happened during boot camp that basically I was accused of some things that weren't true, and I got in some trouble. So I had a really hard time, and if it would have been compounded with things that were going on back home that weren't really positive, I probably would have just gave up, because I honestly almost did give up.
Yeah.
Okay, so the boot camp scenario, you joined Navy Moms, you talked to a bunch of those, they helped you out.
Yep.
So then comes graduation day, you come up. We got to hang out. I remember whenever you picked me up, we were able to go out in town and eat. And you probably can't tell through the podcast, but I'm a pretty loud individual. I'm a little rambunctious, like to be loud and have a good time. And I remember, what was the thing that you said whenever we were riding in the car? Do you remember this? Because to me, it really sticks out to me.
I said, why are you so quiet?
Yeah, so you asked why you're so quiet, and I remember, I think you were talking to my stepdad, and you said, he's so different. What have they done to my boy?
Yeah, when I took him back to base that night, I said, where is my boy? He's not my boy. What happened to him? He's become a man, I guess. And my mom agreed and said, yes, they've turned your boy into a man, because he was so quiet. And I'm sure some of that came from boot camp, because they had to be quiet. They had to eat and go. But yeah, he was a totally different person. And I was just, that's my boy. And it wasn't my boy, so.
Yeah, looking back, thinking about it now, I remember I was really quiet, and especially like being in the car. That was a big thing. Being in the car for the first time in 8 weeks or.
We ended up being there almost 10 weeks. So.
Yeah, being in the car for the first time, it was kind of nerve wracking. I got a little motion sickness going on, just because in boot camp you march everywhere. You never ride in a vehicle, so you get used to that. So I was just staring out the window, taking everything in. But I do remember being really quiet and soft spoken.
Yes.
And I think that's probably what freaked you out the most, huh?
Yeah, because not just being soft spoken, it's just you had nothing to say.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay.
Who is this person?
Yeah. Who is this person?
Yeah. So then, so I finally got to leave boot camp, and I don't remember. Did I get to come home after boot camp, or I went straight to A school, right?
Yep, you went straight to San Antonio.
So I went down to San Antonio. That was quite the experience. I remember I was trying to get all set up, get a new cell phone, get all that stuff, and try and stay in contact with you. And is there anything really that sticks out to you about my time during A school? Something?
No, I remember we came and visited you for a long weekend. Your sister and I did. But there's nothing, because I felt bad. I wasn't even there for your induction ceremony. So that was the only, I do remember that.
No. So then after I graduated A school, then I went home for 2 weeks? Mm-hmm. So
Yes.
I came home for 2 weeks. Was that, so but between the time, once you saw me from boot camp, when you got to visit with me, and the time until after I came home from A school, was that 2 completely different people, or what?
Oh yes, you were more back to your old self.
Yeah.
Are you talking about from since I was
Yeah.
boot camp?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were more back to your old self, especially when we were down there visiting. You were more my old son, the way he should have been. you were still a quote unquote man, but you were more mature, should I say? Which that's a good thing. That's a plus. But yeah, you were more back to your old self. You'd kind of gotten over that quietness from being at boot camp. So
Yeah. So, I mean, and the reason that I really wanted to talk about that was just because, especially if someone is in that situation, I don't, I want them to be prepared for that. I don't want them to freak out like, oh my God, my husband or my son or my daughter or my wife, whatever. And they're freaking out thinking, the Navy or whatever branch is like completely messed them up. And, oh God,
Yeah, no, that wasn't it. It was just from the roughness of being in boot camp and how they live their day-to-day life, or how you live your day-to-day life.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. With other branches, it might be different, but especially with the Navy, because they're basically training us to be on a ship. So we never really get to go outside. We spend most of our time indoors doing, learning how to do shipboard stuff, which honestly didn't really benefit me any because I'm an MA. I'm mainly a shoreside sailor. But anyways, point being, if that's the case, don't let it affect you. It'll, that person is eventually going to get back to normal.
They'll bounce back, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So, came home, was on leave, did all that, and then came the time. Let's backtrack a little bit. Whenever I told you where I got my orders to, because my first set of orders was to Bahrain. When I told you that, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I was devastated. I don't know what I thought. I guess I thought you were just going to be at home, Yeah. I was devastated. I cried. I had my share of crying. The worst part, though, was when you came home and we had to say goodbye. That was it. Had over the past 10 years, it has gotten easier, but those first few, it's rough. It's hard. It's hard on a mama.
Oh yeah. So I will say, especially for the people in our situation where they're dealing with their kids and their kids are going off, don't be too hurt by the kid, because I know with me especially, I really shut down because that just made it easier for me.
Right.
And I still to this day, I still tend to shut down. I think I've softened up a little bit over the years, but for whatever reason, I never did it intentionally. It's just how I reacted. I think it was just easier to do it that way for me because, that's
how you dealt with it.
That's how I dealt with it.
Yep.
And yeah, it's going to be really hard. And I'm sure it was really hard on you seeing me like that. But, I didn't want to, I'm not good with crying. Now, this is just me as a person. I'm just in generally not good with crying.
Yeah, never has been.
Yeah. So just be mindful of that. They, your significant other, your child, whatever, they may shut down, and you're gonna be like, they're being weird or whatever. It's just a coping mechanism, and it just makes it easier for them. And I mean, if you need to, talk to them about it, but just be mindful of that. So I get to Bahrain, and at first I remember I was Joe Sailor. I was Joe Navy, I was like, all about it. Let's do this. And then I remember I fell on some hard times. I started getting some trouble because, my loud mouth and how I like to talk to people. And I remember telling you about some things. But just me relaying that information to you about struggling and having a hard time, like how did you process that? Okay, so if you don't remember, I got in trouble and I had to write this long essay, and I was yeah. So you remember that? Mm-hmm. But I remember I was really struggling, and at one point I was going in to the doc for like depression and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if I ever told you about that, but so I mean I was in a pretty rough place. But with me relaying to you where I was at, how did that make you feel, and how did you try and deal with it?
I mean, it hurt my heart. I felt helpless that I couldn't do anything about it because you were so far away and I was here, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard on a mom, and I'm sure it would be on a dad too. And it's just all you can do is try to lift them up. I mean, you got to keep it on. Lift them up. I sent packages and tried to send him stuff and talk to him. We didn't really talk, but I don't remember what the WhatsApp or something that we used.
No, back then it was BlackBerry. We had BlackBerry Messenger.
Oh, okay, yeah. So every day I tried to talk to him, lift him up. I don't know how well I did, but it's 10 years later now, so I guess it was okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you had your tonsils removed while you were over there too.
Yeah, that was another thing. So when I had those surgeries, obviously, for a spouse or a mom or anybody, they'd want to be there. You weren't able to do that. How was that? Because
It was awful. I felt like a terrible mom. I was like, why didn't I do this before he left? Why didn't I do it when he was younger? I never even thought about it. But yeah, and then they didn't have any kind of pain medicine they would give you. They said take Tylenol. And he had nobody there to give him any Tylenol, nobody there to help him. I mean, it was hard. That was one of the hardest parts I can remember of him after boot camp. So
no, trying to think what else happened while I was in Bahrain. I will say one good thing about Bahrain is I managed to come home like three times while I was there.
Yeah.
I got really lucky. So I managed to we were transitioning between the paper leave system and the computer leave system. So when I took my first 30 days, I put in for it. It was on the paper system, and I guess they just lost the paperwork. So I got 30 free days of leave. So eventually I was just able to come home again. And then I got what they call OTEP benefits. And that I selected 30 free days of leave. So that was another 30. And so I had all the leave in the world. And I know for me, that made it easier. I remember at one point, I know there's a video on YouTube of it, but I had come home and I'd had my buddy pick me up from the airport. And I said, look, I want to surprise my mom. And so when you come down the driveway to our house, you're actually facing the back of the house. So I had him, I hid in the back of the truck, and then I hopped out and ran around the front. I was like, you got to get her to come out. And so I sat down on the front porch and was just reading a book. And I sent my buddy in. And so what did he say to you whenever he came inside?
he wanted me to look at something in his truck.
No. So you didn't expect anything.
I had no idea. I mean, I think I had just gotten out of bed. I still had my pajamas on in the video. And I come outside and just walking around the corner, and I heard, "Hey, Mom." I was like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" Oh, it was crazy. It was the best surprise ever. But I was like, "Are you supposed to be here? Are you AWOL? What's going on?" It was crazy. That was a great one. That was a good one.
Yeah. And then so after I left Bahrain, I went from Bahrain to Italy, and when I was in Italy, you actually got the chance to come over.
Yes. It was awesome.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, being from a small town, that's something that nobody that I know of back home got. Well, one person, but that's a whole nother scenario. That nobody I know has done anything like that. They got in some job and they work there, and hell, they don't even leave the damn state.
No, they don't even leave the county.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I have a little sister, and you brought her with you, and just being able to give you that experience, like, especially her, she was younger. I mean, granted, she's like, I don't really remember any of it, but just because she was young and dumb.
She does remember it.
Yeah, but she doesn't.
That was 6 years ago.
Yeah. But that's something that she never would have got.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience for her and for me. I mean, it was amazing. And then I didn't know what to expect once I got there, and it was amazing. It was great. We had a wonderful time. We reconnected, and his spouse and his spouse surprised us and took us to Rome for 3 days, and we got to go all through Rome, and it was an amazing experience.
No.
To do with my son.
Yeah, exactly.
And his sister.
Trying to think, we're doing this kind of on the cuff. This was a last minute, like, hey, you're here, let's do this podcast. Yeah. So we're making this up as we go. Was there anything that happened when I was there? So as far as, like, I guess you could say my career is concerned, the whole time I've been in, what are the things that's really stuck out to you, and what are some of the things that you've had to overcome or deal with or put up with from me?
Well, first and foremost, I've dealt with it your whole life, is you not talking about things.
Yeah, that's me.
But what sticks out to me is not about you. I mean, it is about you, but it's how proud. I can't. I know I keep saying how proud, but I can't make you understand how proud I am to tell everybody, yep, my son's in the Navy. Yep, my son's in the Navy. He's been in for almost 10 years. But even before 10 years, I can't even express how proud it is, how proud I am. And, you know, he had a lady at high school tell him that wasn't a career when he was in high school. Do you remember that? When you decided you were going to join?
No, I don't remember that.
And I could only just say, look at him now. I would love to throw that in her face. But I mean, you know, me being so proud, which I mean, I'm like that with both of my kids, but just, I hold him high on a pedestal, which I probably shouldn't, but because of what he's done and what he's decided to do with his life, and he keeps keeping on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know there's been several times, even now, there's still times I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm over this shit. I want to get out. I want to go home. And every time I talk about it, what do you say?
Why?
Why? So then I have to think about it, and of course I come up with some bullshit excuse. Sometimes it's a good excuse, but in the grand scheme of things, it gets me to thinking. And oftentimes I'm just like, well, let me just look at these orders, and I end up picking orders anyways.
Exactly.
But it's still having. I mean, even you and my wife, having somebody there to why do you want to do that?
Well, I mean, what's the point? You pretty much got it made. You get to travel. You got it made, and you've got 10 years left.
Yeah.
Now you do. You can retire at my age that you were when you went in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, think about it. I know you're fed up. You're done. You don't want to deal with it anymore. But if you really sit down and think about it, consider your options.
Yeah. So, like I said, I have a younger sister, and she is getting up to where she's about to graduate.
High school.
Right. She's about to graduate high school. And she is looking into colleges and doing other things. And I keep telling her she should join. But now that you've had me go through, what are your thoughts on having your second child join now? Because this for me is going to put into perspective for the people that are thinking about, oh, my husband's going to join, or oh, my daughter's going to join. So you've been through it with me now, and you have her, and she has that option. Would you still put her on that path, or would you be more inclined to have her go to college and do other things?
Well, I would say, because you two are different as far as school, because you hated school.
Yeah, you're right.
And she loves it. She's a straight A student, top 10% of her class. I pushed her to go to college only because I don't want to deal with it again. But it's, in the end, it's her choice, whatever she decides to do. We've raised our kids, and we've got to let them make their own decisions. And we could be ugly and say, no, you're not doing that. No. But in the end, it's really their choice, and we have to do whatever makes them happy. That's why we had them. That's why we raised them. We raised them knowing that in the end, they're going to be in an age where they can make their own decisions. And that's what, of course, I would rather her go to college just because she loves school. No. She's a straight A student. You, on the other hand, hated school. You made the best decision you could have ever made in your life.
Yeah, so, you're not wrong.
Yep.
Okay, so let's put it another way. So she enjoys school. There's no doubt in my mind that she will go to college, and she will graduate college with no problem at all. I have no doubt about that. But let's say she talks to a recruiter, and the recruiter says, "We will pay for your college." And she'll have everything covered, but she's going to have to serve. Obviously, she's going to have to serve, right? So she has that choice of going to college and having to pay for it. Let's just assume she doesn't get a full ride. So she has choice A, which is go to college and have to take out loans or work or whatever. And option B is go to school, we'll pay for it, and you get to come in as an officer. Which route would you rather have her take?
From what I've been through with you, I would rather her go in as an officer.
Yeah, yeah.
Only because of what I've seen. I mean, I've seen how different it is between your rank versus officers. And I would say, if that's what you want to do, then definitely. If they're going to pay for your school, if they're truly going to pay for your school,
Yeah.
then yeah, go in as an officer.
Yeah.
Easier times.
Yeah,
not
I
such
mean,
hard times.
Oh, 100%. I think too though that just anybody in general that is even thinking about joining, I mean, in my opinion, even if you just do your initial contract and get out, I think doing it once, it'll benefit each and every person that does it. I'm of the mind that anyone and everyone that is capable should join, or should serve. At least a minimum of 2-3 years. Just because, I mean, even if you're paraplegic or whatever, if you can type or you can do something, we can find a job for you. Mm-hmm. We can put you behind a desk or whatever. And I honestly think that it would help each and every single person, because I know, and like you said earlier, I was a different person. It helped me grow up, helped me mature. And I think everyone should do it.
That's funny you say that, because she just wrote a paper last week about why she thinks everyone should at least be in the military.
Really?
Yes. And a lot of it was learning respect, learning what these people joined for in the first place, learning more about what it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, last week she just wrote a paper about it.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Another thing to consider too is we kind of come from, I mean, we're not the most, I don't know the word I'm looking for here. We come from a bit of a military family, mm-hmm. but it's not like every single person in our family is military.
Right.
My grandfather, your dad, he was in the Navy. He actually retired as a chief. Mm-hmm. And then we have some people that were in the Marines.
Your uncles, your aunt, your uncles, and your great grandfather.
Yeah.
They're in the Army.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have...
And one in the Air Force, sorry.
Right. So we have... our family is a little bit more understanding and more... a bit more proud about us joining or going that route. But from the viewpoint, trying to see it from a viewpoint of never... somebody that's, their family, nobody's ever done the military. They've always just, done the same thing, go to school and get a job and do whatever. For someone to branch out and do that's a hard spot to be in.
That's scary.
Yeah.
It's definitely scary for the parent. And some parents just want their kids to go in to straighten them up.
You couldn't see it here, but she gave me that mom look just then.
No, I mean, but I hear about it all the time. Well, I'm just going to make him go in the military. You can't make them. Yeah, it would be a great step if they could handle it.
Yeah.
It takes a headstrong person to be able to handle it. And I know that my son is very headstrong.
I mean, I want to agree with you, but also disagree with you, because I've met plenty of people that they're not headstrong, but they somehow managed to make it through. And even if they're in that situation where it's like, listen, you need to join, you need to do something, you've got to get out of here. I don't think necessarily that's the best choice. I think if it's something that you bring to them and they want to do it, then they should. But if they're just absolutely dead set against it, don't try and force them, because I've met plenty of people that have been in and that are in, and just trying to work with those individuals it's hell. I mean, they don't give a shit about the work. So what does it mean for me? It means I got to pick up their slack and do their job for them. And I'm not saying they shouldn't go through, because like I just said, I think everyone should go. But they should go in, do their time, and then get out. Or even after, during boot camp, they should be weeded out, because it's just, it makes everybody's life a little bit harder. Now, granted, it gives me the chance to shine, gives me a chance to go, hell yeah, I look fucking good now. Mm-hmm. But don't try and force them into it. That would be my biggest takeaway. If you force them into it, it's just going to make life miserable for everybody.
Yeah, and back to what you were saying about the families that haven't ever had to deal with it, it'd definitely be hard. It's tough on parents when their kids that decide they're going to do it and like a total surprise to you. You just got to support them. I mean, you got to support them.
So, what do you think the best piece of advice that you could give to a mom or to a dad or whose children are joining? What is the number one thing that you think every parent should do? Obviously, support them.
Awkward silence. I would say, besides support, learn more about it. I mean, that's the best thing you can do. That way you understand what's going on in their world when it's something that you don't have a part of. I mean, some parents may not have a close relationship like you and I do, but...
Oh, and mind you, we didn't really have that very close relationship at first, because my couple years before I graduated high school was
bad.
It was rough to say the least.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was something we had to work on. But you were saying, I'm sorry.
But we ended up being very close.
Yeah.
What I was saying is, as far as those that aren't as close, you've still got to support your kids because they will come back to you. You've got to be mindful of what they're doing and there you go, learn more about it. Understand it, help with understanding, and talk with other parents. That's just like and I stated earlier, it was Navy Moms. It's Navy for Moms on Facebook. It's definitely a great idea to look that up because there towards the end, the Navy would put some things on there, pictures and stuff on there, and it's a great tool for parents to but watch their kids become who they're becoming and learn more about the opportunities that their child is going through.
So thinking back, whenever I was in boot camp, I think maybe this was you, I don't remember, but did you ask me about another kid in my division because on that website one of the moms wasn't able to get in touch with them, or was that in Bahrain?
That was in Bahrain. It's not that they couldn't get in touch with them. We were just wanting to send them. If you're talking about the same time, I had asked if there was anybody there that didn't receive packages and stuff because several of us had gotten together. My friends from church had gotten together, was going to send packages over to other guys. Beside, not only you, but other ones too.
Yeah. No, there was a situation, I don't remember all the details, but I feel like at some point, one of the moms was worried about one of the other people, or maybe couldn't get in touch with them or something. And you had asked me, hey, do you know this person? Can you reach out to them?
Oh, maybe then.
I don't remember, but the point was going to be is that if you use that website, if you use Facebook for that, or you have a group that you use, there is that possibility, hey, can you reach out to Greg, Marcy, and Jan, Bobby, whoever, reach out to them and say, hey, look, your mom's worried about you, and do that. And actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I know, I met some people that their moms met online, and they ran into each other and started talking, and they were like, oh, my mom knows your mom, blah, 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 blah. Just because through that group, that was how they met.
It's a very helpful group. It really helps parents,
Now, well, I would say you could even use it to help the kids,
Oh, yeah.
Like I was just talking about. If somebody's having a hard time, hey, can someone have their kid reach out to mine so that, they can have someone there, And, for me, I definitely would have. I definitely would have done that. I love people, and I love reaching out and trying to help people however I can. So find a group, find a support system, find a way to make this easier. That would be probably the biggest takeaway from this.
Definitely. It helped me tremendously. And I mean, I'm a sappy kind of person anyway. I cry at the drop of the hat. So, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So, it definitely helped me a lot.
Yeah. And be prepared for your kid to spontaneously get married.
Yeah.
So it seems to be the military way of things. You join the military, and you just got to get married super quick. That's just kind of how it goes. So with that, me and my wife, we got married after being together for a super short amount of time, and we didn't tell anybody. And I mean, eventually it came out, but we didn't tell anybody for a year, and then we had a wedding. And then eventually, like I said, it came out, and I told my mom. But how did you deal with that? Like, how did you take that? Because especially number one, we're gonna be newlyweds, but we were moving overseas, so like you were never gonna see us. Yeah. How was that for you?
Well, if you remember how I found out, I found a copy of your marriage certificate.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And I thought it was fake because she was going with him to Italy, and I thought, well, they've just done a fake one, just so she could go or something. I called him. They were actually in Gatlinburg at the time.
Yeah.
I called him, and he was like, no, it's the real thing. I was like, what are you doing? I mean, I had a hard time with it at first, only because of the circumstances, but I wouldn't change it now for anything in the world. She is my other daughter, and I felt, honestly, I'm sorry, I kind of skipped over the question. I felt better that she was going to be over there with you, so you wouldn't be alone. That made me feel better. It made me think like, okay, well, his mom's not going to be there, but his wife is, and I know that he'll be taken care of. Yeah. Granted, you were a man, but I was still thinking of you as my little boy, and so it kind of made me feel better. But like the old saying goes, you gain a daughter-in-law, lose a son. I mean, it's not like that, but at first I felt like it was, but I was glad that somebody was going to be there with you. So,
yeah. And then so we had our first child, and I mean, this can be a military thing, but it can also be if you move away from home thing too, right?
Sure.
But especially more so in the military because we're always moving around. So now you have a granddaughter. How hard is that? How do you cope with that? Because I mean, this being here in Virginia is the closest we've been to home ever. So we had our daughter when I was in Texas. I was way down on the bottom of Texas, and then from there we went to Washington State, and then I went to Bahrain for a year, and she was able to come home for a year, which I bet was nice. But now we're in Virginia. But while we were in those places like Washington and down in Texas, how was that for you? How did you, I mean,
was I not there every single place you went? I always came to visit.
Right. I will say that you always came. If nobody else could come, you'd be like, I don't care. I'm going to be there.
I'm coming. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you didn't come to Bahrain, but Bahrain's a whole nother, that's a...
No,
I wouldn't have wanted you to come there. I hated that place. But...
I mean, it's hard that way. It's tough seeing pictures of your grandchild doing these things and you're not being there, which I want to be there for everything. That's just the kind of person I am. I mean, it's tough, but as long as you know that your child has their wife or their spouse with them and, they have their own little family, it makes it easier. I mean, it's tough on me as a grandparent, but that's why I'm there. That's why I'm here now. I just saw you 3 months ago, but I'm here. I'm the type that likes to travel anyway, but I would say knowing that they have their little family makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Because regardless how old you are, I'll always be your mama. So.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, just I'm just trying to imagine. Because when I went to Bahrain, I didn't realize it was going to be as hard as it was. When I left, I thought, okay, this was just, because leaving home is one thing, but leaving your wife and your child, that's a whole new thing. And so when I was in Bahrain for a year,
don't let him lie to you. He had tears when he left the airport.
I did. But I didn't realize it was going to be that hard, and I missed the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine having a grandchild that you never get to see. I can't imagine.
Thanks to today's technology, we get to see, but we're not there in person.
Yeah, that is one thing I would agree with, having that ability. Because I remember when I was up in Washington, I got to the point where on my way home from work, since I had such a long drive home,
You would FaceTime me.
yeah, I would FaceTime you. I would talk to you on my way home, and that was an easy way to stay connected. And it also makes it easier now because we have a spare iPad that we just let my daughter FaceTime with you. So I know that's got to make it easier for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, she'd probably FaceTime me every day if y'all let her.
Yeah.
But it does make it easier, thanks to technology today. As far as how it was back then, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine.
They've been hell.
Yeah, they're probably traveling grandparents just like I am.
Yeah.
But being overseas, I can't imagine how it was then. I know when and if you all go back overseas, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't have as much easier access to get to you all. I don't want to think about it. It'll be tough.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, might as well, since we're here. So if that were the scenario, or if that were the case, if that does happen, if or when that does happen, what are some things that we could have done? And even if we're here in the States, what are some things that we could have done, or that other people could do for their moms, whatever, when they have their kids? What are some things that we could do to help make that easier for you and other grandparents, as far as just being away? Obviously having her FaceTime, that's one thing that we do that helps.
Mm-hmm. Communication.
Yeah.
It's a big one. Pictures, lots of pictures. Send the child to its grandparents.
Hey, let me tell you, that helps the parents too, getting her sent her down to your way.
Yeah. I mean, that's hard. That's a hard question, but definitely pictures and lots and lots of pictures.
Yeah.
And talking on the phone. That's the only way you can deal with it.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we can kind of close this up. There's really not much more we can say, or at least not that I can think of. Do you have does anything at all come to mind, since we're wrapping things up? Is there anything else that you could add, or that you would think that might be important for other parents to know, or just anything at all that you want to say?
I have one last thing I'd like to say. When it comes to military, I'm not bashing it, but things always change. Be ready for changes, because just like they thought they were going to be in Washington for 3 years, and they were there 6 months, and
A little more,
and then he was sent. I mean, it ended up being a blessing for me, because my daughter-in-law and granddaughter got to come home for a year, but for him, I know it was tough. But things change. Things change. Just have to be prepared for it. Have tough skin and be prepared for it.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this podcast with me.
You're welcome.
And
thanks for having me on. I hope I helped.
So guys, as always, do all the social media things, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave me some feedback. Let me know what you want to hear about. I always talk about this as a community. I want to have you guys on. So if you have some stories you want to tell, if you have a topic you want to talk about, let me know. I want to get with you. I want you guys to come on. Let's do a podcast. Let's talk about it. So share this around. Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or shoot me an email at enlistedpointofview@gmail.com. And let's take it from there. Let's have a conversation. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.